So Drake really looked into a mic, did the whole careful with that reply, the pen isn't dry thing, and the internet laughed like he'd just read a tough guy caption off a fortune cookie. And that would be one thing if this was just a goofy clip, but it's not, because at the exact same time, you've got Drake sliding onto a Karol G record with Spanish that has people wincing, and you've got DJ Academics, OVO's human megaphone, doing gymnastics to paint Kendrick Lamar as selfish, like the West Coast hasn't been getting more spotlight lately than it's had in years. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The Drake warning isn't landing because the brand is slipping. The unbothered boss act used to work because the music would back it up, the moment would back it up, the room would go quiet. Now the room is cracking jokes, remixing the clip, quoting it back like a meme, and that is a catastrophic change in leverage, personally for Drake, culturally for what fans even consider dominance, and system-wide for how rap media props up a narrative even when the crowd is telling you it's cooked. Because when the culture starts laughing at the threat, it's not just about the line, it's about what the line reveals. And in a few minutes, when we connect that viral Drake clip to the Academics Kendrick doesn't help the coast push, and then to why the Karol G feature feels like pure algorithm hunting, you're going to see why this whole week has been one long panic move disguised as confidence, and why the next response is going to be, drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's set the table, because a lot of people are reacting to this like it's 3 random stories. It's not. It's one story told in 3 different costumes. On the surface, you've got Drake popping out with a quick warning to anyone who wants to diss him, basically telling people don't even start because he's still got ammo. That's the headline. Then, in a totally different lane, Drake shows up on a Karol G track, global superstar, huge reach, huge playlists, except the performance is getting cooked by bilingual listeners and even casual fans who can hear it doesn't feel natural. And then you've got Academics, who I'm going to call the megaphone because that's what he is in moments like this, pushing this line that Kendrick is selfish and the West Coast is dead outside of Kendrick, like Kendrick hasn't been doing the exact opposite of that in public, on stage, and through his choices. Now, why does any of this matter right now? Because we're still living in the aftershock of the Drake versus Kendrick era we all just watched. Whether you think Drake won on streams or Kendrick won on culture, the real war is the next chapter. Who gets to control the story when the battle is over? Who gets to rewrite the scoreboard? Who gets to act like they're still the predator when the crowd has started treating them like content? And that's the stakes. Not just is Drake mad, the stakes are can Drake reassert fear in the market? Can he reassert cool in the culture? And can he reassert control over the media layer that translates everything into, actually, this is a win? Because if he can't, then every warning becomes a meme, every feature becomes a try-hard play, and every ally becomes a loud excuse instead of a real cosign. So the question is simple. Are we watching Drake set up a real comeback, or are we watching a man try to scare people back into respecting him? First piece of surface evidence, the clip. You've probably seen it by now, floating on X, TikTok, IG Reels, Drake talking about how he's grateful, how things have been incredible, then he pivots into the warning. Other guys are dropping albums like Hello and Goodbye, and be careful with that reply because the pen isn't dry. It's meant to sound like don't poke the bear. But watch the reaction, not just the quote. The reaction is the evidence. When Drake was at peak aura, you didn't get mass laughter. You got uh-oh. You got think pieces. You got rappers going quiet or subliminal back. Now you got comment sections doing the exact thing Drake is telling people not to do, replying instantly, mocking instantly, flipping the bar instantly. People are saying things like, weren't his albums Hello and Goodbye too? People are posting that line with clown music. People are making it a sound. And if you're Drake, that's the nightmare outcome, because the whole point of a warning is to create hesitation. Let me ask you straight, when was the last time a Drake threat created fear instead of content? Second piece of surface evidence, the Karol G feature. I'm not even coming at this on some Drake can't do other languages angle, because we've seen rap artists cross over and do it well when it's approached with respect, coaching, time, and taste. The issue people are reacting to is that it sounds stiff. It sounds like a we need a global record session, not a this is inspired moment. And when fans say it sounds like a politician reading Spanish off a teleprompter, they're not doing that just to be mean. They're reacting to a lack of ease. And ease is Drake's whole superpower. Drake is supposed to sound like he belongs everywhere. That's the brand. So when he sounds like he's chasing the moment instead of shaping the moment, it hits different. Even if you personally like the record, you can still see the broader point. This feature is not moving like the old Drake feature used to move in the conversation. It's not game over, hit incoming. It's, why does this feel like a rollout move? Third piece of surface evidence, academics on camera pushing the Kendrick is selfish thing. This is important because it's not just a hot take, it's a frame. The megaphone is
basically arguing Kendrick got to the top of the West, then stopped helping, and that the West Coast is flopping outside of Kendrick. And the reason that clip matters is not because everyone believes academics. The reason it matters is because it shows what angle the Drake side conversation keeps trying to lean on now. They're not trying to argue bars anymore. They're trying to argue character. They're trying to argue community. They're trying to argue, well, Kendrick is a bad guy, actually, because that's the only lane where you can muddy a cultural win without having to rap better. And if you put those three surface moments next to each other, Drake warning, Drake chasing a global collab, academics trying to repaint Kendrick as selfish, do you see the shape of it? Does everybody understand how crazy this actually is? It's not random. It's coordinated in spirit, even if nobody sent a group chat. And before we go deeper, keep that pen isn't dry line in your pocket, because later we're going to talk about who that line is really for and why it backfired. And oh, do I have more for you. Because the funniest part is, the Drake stans keep yelling he's unbothered, while every move this week is screaming bothered in 4K. And if you're one of the people in the comments who swears any criticism is hate, I need you to stay right here, because the next layer isn't even my opinion. It's the culture telling you out loud what time it is. Also, we're going to get to the most telling part, the way the megaphone's Kendrick narrative collapses the second you bring up real public moments that everyone watched with their own eyes. Now, let's move into the cultural evidence, because this is where you see whether a moment is real or manufactured. First cultural piece, the way fan communities are talking about the Drake warning. Go look at the big threads, Reddit, quote tweets, reaction vids. The dominant vibe is not Drake is back. It's, this sounds forced. And that's a brutal word for Drake, because forced is the opposite of what made him dangerous. When people start saying this feels like cosplay, they're not just insulting his tough talk, they're clocking that he's doing an impression of the old Drake. The cosplay Don, the caption general, the guy trying to summon 2018 energy with 2026 consequences. And you can see it in the jokes people choose. They're not even debating the strategy. They're clowning the aesthetic, the bracelets talk, the flex talk, the don't want to say the price tag talk. It's getting treated like a skit. And once the public files you under skit, you have to rap your way out of that, not talk your way out of that. Second cultural piece, bilingual listeners and Latin music fans reacting to the Karol G record. This matters because that audience is not playing the fan war game as rap Twitter. They're reacting as listeners. A lot of them are saying the accent is off, the phrasing is awkward, the delivery doesn't feel lived in. And yeah, some people will say you're overreacting, it's just a feature. Fair, art is subjective. But here's the counterpoint that kills that defense. Drake built his empire on details, on sounding like he belongs in whatever room he steps into. So when he doesn't, it's not just a feature, it's a crack in the superpower. And there's another layer, the algorithm record accusation. People are saying this feels engineered, big name, big market, big playlist potential, more than it feels like two artists who couldn't resist making a record together. And when the audience starts calling your moves engineered, you lose the romance, you lose the magic. You start looking like a brand doing brand deals. Third cultural piece, the backlash to academics' Kendrick narrative, not just from Kendrick fans, but from people who are tired of the propaganda cycle. The megaphone keeps saying Kendrick doesn't support the West, and people keep responding with the same basic point. Kendrick has done visible, public, put people on moments that you can't hand wave away. Big events, big stages, big looks. And here's what's hilarious. Even when academics tries to argue against it, he ends up admitting the core truth by accident. He'll say something like, Kendrick didn't need to bring people out, but it looked better when the whole coast rocked with him. Exactly. That's the point. He didn't need them. He shared anyway. That's not selfish. That's, I'm good enough to feed the room and still not lose my plate. And now we get to the nuance part, because I want to be fair for 2 seconds. Is it possible some West Coast artists feel like Kendrick could do more, tweet more, coast more, do more public co-signing? Sure, that feeling can exist. Artists complain about support all the time. That's real. But here's what kills the whole selfish argument. Kendrick's support style has never been daily clout posts. Kendrick moves like a quiet boss. He does big moments, not constant internet babysitting. And the culture has rewarded that. The more silent he is, the more powerful he looks. So when the megaphone tries to spin "he's not tweeting" into "he's selfish," it just reads like someone mad they can't bait Kendrick into playing the same messy game as everyone else. And speaking of messy games, pay attention to who keeps needing to talk. Drake warning, academics ranting, commentators running defense. Meanwhile, Kendrick's aura is built on not needing to do any of that. And that's the gear shift right there. Because once you see that, you stop watching this as rap beef drama, and you start watching it as a system problem. Because now we have to do the pattern interrupt. Hard pivot, less jokes for a minute.
What I think is happening here is we're watching narrative management in real time, and narrative management is an industry skill, not a rap skill. Angle 1. Media leverage. In modern rap, you don't just drop music, you deploy stories. You seed angles through friendly platforms. You give clips to the right pages. You let the megaphones repeat the same frame until casual listeners think it's just what people are saying. That's why the academics' Kendrick is selfish push matters. It's not designed to convince Kendrick fans. It's designed to create enough fog for casuals, enough noise that the conversation moves from Drake lost cultural ground to, well, Kendrick is weird and selfish and doesn't help people. It's a reframe attempt. And here's the key. Reframes are what you do when you can't change the core memory. You can't erase what people felt during the peak of this era. You can only try to relabel it after the fact. Angle 2. The algorithm economy. A Drake feature used to be a moment because the audience believed Drake was the moment. Now the feature has to function like a tool. Cross-market reach, playlist placement, short-form sound potential, global radio-friendly sheen. That's not automatically bad. Every big artist plays that game. But the problem is when the audience senses you're playing it to cover weakness, not to expand strength. And that's what this Karol G moment signals to me. Not that Drake is washed, not that Drake can't make hits, but that the strategy has shifted from "I will set the tone" to "I will attach to tones." From author to adapter, from chef to guy asking what's trending and throwing it in the pan. Now, combine those two angles, media leverage plus algorithm economics, and the Drake warning clip becomes way more interesting. Because that clip isn't just a warning to rappers, it's a signal to the market. It's Drake trying to reinsert fear so people stop treating him like a brand you can tease. And why would he need that fear back? Because fear is a form of control. If artists think you'll scorch them, they move careful. If pages think you can punish access, they post gentle. If fans think you're still the final boss, they defend harder. But once the culture decides you're not scary, the whole machine that ran on your dominance starts losing power. That's why the pen isn't dry line got laughed at. The audience isn't judging the pen, they're judging the gap between the line and the last year of optics, and optics is currency now. The unbothered brand doesn't work if you keep needing to announce you're unbothered. So here's the system critique. The rap media ecosystem is built to keep stars on top by translating every stumble into, actually, that's genius. But that only works when the audience still wants to believe. The second the crowd stops believing, the translation layer looks like propaganda. And once it looks like propaganda, every megaphone turns into a liability. Let me put it in one sentence. When your allies have to scream, it's because your aura isn't speaking anymore. Now we get to the real truth bomb, and I'm going to say it clean. The real reason Drake's warning got laughed at isn't because people hate Drake. It's because the culture no longer trusts the threat. The threat used to mean, I'll out-rap you, out-strategize you, and make you look small. Now, to a lot of listeners, the threat reads like, please stop poking me while I'm trying to rebuild the story. And allegedly, based on how this always goes in the industry, the goal right now isn't even to beat Kendrick in a direct clash. The goal is to make Kendrick look like the bad guy in a different court. Community court, morality court, he doesn't help his people court. Because if you can poison the idea of Kendrick, you don't have to out-rap Kendrick. You can just make people feel weird about rooting for him. That is why the megaphone is spiraling. That is why the Karol G feature feels like a numbers move more than a heart move. And that is why Drake is publicly doing warnings again, instead of doing the one thing that would actually scare people, dropping undeniable records with no explanation needed. Because the truth is, the system can survive a bad feature. The system can survive a corny clip. What the system cannot survive is the audience realizing the emperor needs a narrator. And that's what's happening. Fans are watching the defense happen in real time, and they're clocking the desperation. And here's the nastiest part. Once a star gets filed under try hard, everything gets interpreted through that lens. The jewelry talk becomes costume. The tough talk becomes theater. The global feature becomes a chase. The friend platforms become PR. Even if the next song is good, the audience is already bracing to judge the intent. So the pen isn't dry, isn't a warning. It's a confession. It's Drake admitting he needs to write his way back to something he used to get for free: belief. Now, for the landing, because I'm not making this video to do victory laps for the sake of it. I'm making it because the resolution tells you what kind of era we're in. If Kendrick Lamar is the hero in this story, it's not because he's perfect or because he's some untouchable myth. It's because the guy's approach is built for long-term wins. He doesn't need to post a threat to feel powerful. He lets the work and the moments do it.
He doesn't need a megaphone to convince you he's outside. He can be quiet and still bend the timeline. And look at the contrast using our own evidence. Drake goes public with the warning and gets memed. Kendrick gets accused of being selfish, and the accusation collapses the second people list real public moments where he shared space and spotlight. Drake reaches for a global collab, and people argue it feels engineered. Kendrick stays in his lane, does big cultural plays when he chooses, and the culture treats it like an event. Here's the one-liner that sums it up. Drake is fighting to be believed, and Kendrick is being believed without fighting. And to the people watching this who are Drake fans, I'm not telling you to stop liking Drake. Like who you like, but be honest about the shift. If your favorite artist has to announce "I'm still dangerous," that's already a downgrade from when the room would assume it. If the defense has to be louder than the music, that's not dominance, that's damage control. And for the rest of the culture, this is the healthiest part. When the audience starts rewarding discipline over noise, the whole game gets better. The right person wins more often. The clout tactics work less. The propaganda gets exposed faster. That's a win for rap, not just a win for one side of a beef. So where does it go from here? This is only the start, because you can already see the next phase lining up. If Drake drops again soon, single, feature run, surprise pack, whatever, watch whether it moves like art or like strategy. Watch whether the conversation is "this is undeniable" or "what playlist is this aiming for?" Watch whether he lets the music speak or whether the caption general needs another speech to tell you how to feel. And on the Kendrick side, watch the silence, because silence drives people insane when they can't control you with clips. The megaphones will keep yelling, the narratives will keep trying to pivot, and the more they push, the more obvious it gets that they're not reacting to Kendrick's actions, they're reacting to Kendrick's position. So I want you to do two things. One, tell me in the comments, did Drake's warning feel like a real threat to you, or did it feel like a meme the second it hit your feed? And two, tell me if you think that Karol G feature is going to grow on people, or if it's already cooked because the delivery doesn't feel natural. And if you want the next video, I'm telling you right now what we're covering. The quiet way rap media chooses winners after the music stops. Who gets protected, who gets reframed, and the one move that exposes the whole machine when it happens in public. Because once you see that, you'll never hear another "he's unbothered" speech the same way again.